Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Walz, under Minnesota Statutes Chapter 12 Emergency Management, declared a peacetime emergency on March 13, 2020. The city has determined that an in-person meeting may not be practical or prudent because of the health pandemic. The City of Detroit Lakes meetings will be held via telephone conference call or by other electronic means as outlined in Minnesota Statute 13D.021. Members of the public who wish to view the meeting virtually should submit a request to the city. The City of Detroit Lakes City Council meeting this evening will be a hybrid meeting taking place with two options. You can attend in person at the Historical Homes Center Ballroom located at 806 Summit Avenue, or to attend virtually, please submit a request to the city. And with that, I will call the regular January 2021 City Council meeting to order. And at this time, I would like to invite all of you to please stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The consent agenda is before the council. All items with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered separately in its normal sequence on the agenda. Is there any items that any member of the council or any members of the public wish to either add or remove from the consent agenda?
We're item 11B.
You want to add or remove 11?
We're going to add it. We're going to take it off because we have other things to add to that.
Okay. Any other? If not, I would. Go ahead.
Your Honor, this is Dan Winter. I'd like to have the Chief Todd provide an update on the building after item 8A.
Okay, that's fine. Any others? I would entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda with those modifications.
So move. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion? And I still have to do a roll call vote.
Yes.
Boki?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
Suki?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Winter?
Aye.
Did I get everybody? We got some new faces around here, you know?
I think so.
Mayor, did we do approve the minutes?
We need to approve the minutes too.
Okay.
Yes, we did. Yep.
Thanks for catching that. The minutes of the regular City Council meeting held on December 8th, 2020, and the annual City Council meeting held January 5th, 2021 are before the council. Is there anyone in the audience or any member of the council that wishes to make any changes to either of those minutes? Not, I would entertain a motion for their approval.
Make a motion that they approved as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular City Council meeting from December 8th, 2020, and the annual City Council meeting, which was held on January 5th, 2021. Discussion? Roll call vote. Winter?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Suki? Bly?
Aye.
Boki?
Aye.
Motion carries. Before I open up for the public hearings this evening, Scott Walz is here and wants to give us a very brief update on the Polar Plunge. Polar Plunge, right, Scott? Polar Fest?
The Minnesota Snice Showcase, the Ice Palace.
Oh, okay.
I was here yesterday for the Public Works meeting, and they asked that I come today to give an update. As most of you know, this was the year that we were supposed to have the big Ice Palace in conjunction with the 150th anniversary. But due to all of the restrictions, it was getting harder and harder to plan what we may or may not be able to do, and it became clear very early on that using our resources to build a big one just wasn't going to make sense right now. A big impetus behind why we do this isn't just to make something really neat, it's to make something neat enough that people want to come from the area, stay the night, spend money, and invest in our community. So it seemed to be a waste of resources when, if the restaurants were open, it might only be at half capacity. They might not be able to stay at hotels. So we were trying to scale it back, and it got to the point that now I don't even know how many people we can even have outside together. I think it's only 10 or 20 could potentially congregate. So what we are doing for sure is, you all remember what we called the royal tree, the really big tree that was lit up. We're lighting that up, and we've contracted that company to do 3 other trees north of the pavilion there. So those will be all lit up. And Mother Nature did finally cooperate enough that it looks like we've got some decent ice out there. I plowed off a spot this weekend, and we have it barricaded off, and we're going to try to harvest some ice and leave it up to those with the creative bones in their body to see what they feel like are able to carve. So we might have a few carvings in there mixed amongst the trees, but knew that we couldn't have something where people stand in line and wait to get their picture taken or congregate in large crowds. You know, we've had over 1,000 people there at times. So we will be back next year. We've basically just pushed it off that next year will be the big one. So instead of the kickoff to the 150th, it's the grand finale maybe to the 150th. So if anybody has
Questions
any...
for Scott?
What's that?
I asked if anybody had any questions for you.
Just want to say thank you to Scott and his team for all the work they've done on this. They're all volunteers, and they spent a lot of time on this.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll adjourn the regular meeting and call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposed street and utility improvements for the Willow Street, Holmes, and Frazee Street project. And at this time, I would call on City Engineer John Pratt. John?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Bear with me here for a moment. I think we got that up. Okay. As the Mayor indicated, we've got a public hearing tonight for a very large street utility reconstruction project that is scheduled to begin sometime in the summer of 2021. It's the Willow Street, Holmes Street, Frazee Street project, and we'll get into it here. So what we're talking about, like I already alluded to, is a large street utility project at various areas around the community. Why are we here? Probably most importantly is to provide information to the public, to adjacent properties and businesses that might be impacted, gain input, answer questions, and this is also a requirement of State Statute 429 whenever the city does a project that involves special assessment of adjacent properties. So the overview of the presentation will go over the project, or the project area, the existing conditions and need, what's sort of wrong with it, what we're planning to do in the way of improvements, and then get into the costs, the funding, and what the special assessments are going to look like for the project. Talk briefly about some of the next steps, and then have a period for questions and comments. So the project location, there's sort of, I guess I'd call it 4 primary areas. They're illustrated on the map here. It's a little tough to read, but it's Willow Street from Sherrill to Washington Avenue, or just short of Washington Avenue, so we're sort of where we left off this past summer. Frazee Street from Washington to McKinley. Holmes Street from Washington to about Lincoln Avenue, somewhere kind of right in front of the existing police station. And then the Washington Avenue alley from Holmes to Frazee. And then we're also looking at potentially doing some intersection improvements to the McKinley and Frazee intersection, the 4-way stop there. So sort of where have we been? These projects have been on the city CIP for a number of years now. The underlying reasons really are just the condition of the street and utilities. They're deteriorating. We've got some issues with sewer and water and things like that. So in March of 2020, not quite a year ago, we initiated sort of some of the start of the project, looked at scoping this out, some of the planning, prepared a facility plan and environmental documentation. That was stuff that was required for us to submit some funding applications to Minnesota Public Facilities Authority. And then over the course of the summer, we started some of the preliminary design, did the field survey, started to pull some of that stuff together in our office and get underway with some of the initial design. And at this point, we're starting to move towards the final design and permitting and bidding over the course of the winter. with our eye on construction starting in 2021 and very likely spilling into 2022. So existing conditions, I don't want to dwell on this too much. Most of it's pretty obvious. As far as streets go, we just have a litany of different deficiencies and conditions in those streets. Excessive cracking, potholes, heaves, settlements, sort of depends on where you're at, on which street you're looking at, but all of them have some level of deficiency that need to be addressed. The age is sort of all over the board. There are areas within the project that are as new as 22 years old, and several other areas that are getting closer to that 40 or 50 year mark. From a stormwater standpoint, I wouldn't say that the stormwater is, for the most part, a driving force behind the project. Generally speaking, we don't really have any areas that are subject to frequent flooding or anything like that. So from a hydraulic standpoint, it's okay. But we do have some structural failures, particularly in that alley storm sewer. You can see some pictures there where we've got pipes that are broke, cracked, failing, filling up with gravel, things like that. So the sanitary sewer, like the rest of this project, you'll see kind of a theme here. It varies from location to location as to what's wrong, but we have some issues with the sanitary sewer in some locations, ranging from bad pipe, old pipe, undersized pipe. On Willow Street, from Sherrill to Campbell, we've got PVC pipe that's really in fair condition. It's PVC, not too bad. Campbell to Rossman, very, very old pipe. It's a vitrified clay pipe, bad condition. Most of it's probably ranging somewhere in that 70 years old. Rossman to Washington, that pipe is actually in pretty good shape. It was replaced in mid to late 90s, I believe. And the challenge there is that lacks some capacity. We're actually starting to push up on the upper limit of what that could handle based on some growth and things like that. So it needs to be increased in size. On Frazee Street, we have VCP pipe that's in very poor condition, unknown age, but probably around 70 years old. Holmes Street, we have PVC pipe, which is in fair condition and doesn't warrant any improvements. So mixed bag. Water, same thing. Willow Street from Sherrill to Summit, we have some areas of newer PVC and some areas of old pipe. That's a real checkerboard through there, which is a little bit frustrating, but through the course of time, there's been segments that have been replaced, segments that haven't. Nothing real consistent, but all of it is undersized based on a water distribution master plan exercise that we went through. That is a segment of water main that serves as a transmission line to the rest of the city, and that pipe is pretty dramatically undersized right now. Summit to Washington, we have PVC pipe that is in good condition. Frazee Street, it's old cast iron water main, very old, in poor condition. Holmes Street, we have PVC pipe that's in good condition. So, again, all over the board. So what are we planning to do? I'm going to take this off. From a water main standpoint, on Willow, Sherrill to Summit, we need to increase that pipe size, like I said, simply because we have some areas that are in poor condition there, some that are in fair condition, but we need to increase that pipe size just for system-wide considerations. So we're replacing all the water main from Sherrill to Summit. On Frazee, Washington to McKinley, we will be replacing the entire segment of water main through that whole corridor. And then there will be no replacement on other areas of Willow and Holmes that I didn't mention. So Holmes Street's in good shape, we're not going to do that. And the sort of eastern end of Willow Street's in good shape, and we can leave that alone. From a sanitary sewer side, replacement areas include Willow Street from Campbell to the CP Railroad, and that's due to poor pipe condition. Willow Street, again, from CP Railroad to Washington, we need to replace due to capacity needs. Again, that pipe is undersized and we need to generate some additional capacity. So we'll be replacing that and upsizing it despite the pipe being in pretty fair condition. And then Frazee, we will be replacing that all the way from Washington to McKinley due to the pipe condition. And then no replacement on Willow from Sherrill to Campbell or Home Street. So service laterals is another thing that we will do. Generally speaking, we replace residential sewer and water services with a 1-inch water line and a 4-inch sewer with a new curb stop and a clean out. Those service laterals are larger for commercial properties that might have fire protection or additional demands. We size those up accordingly. This is a really mixed bag through the project. Again, we've got areas that had new services, some that haven't. So it's all over the board where we'll be replacing those service laterals. Some of them have been replaced in previous projects, and if they're in good condition, we'll simply reconnect them to the new mains. We replace, as a city, the service lateral from the main to the edge of the right-of-way. And then it's the property owner's responsibility to replace the service lateral from the edge of their property into the building. It's not something that's required, it's just something that we mention to people. It's a good time for people to look at the condition of their services, potentially call a plumber, see what they have to say. It could be a good time to finish that replacement if needed. And if you plan to do that, I always ask people, let us know, and we might be able to coordinate that and even save a few dollars on one side or the other if we can coordinate it. Storm sewer, like I indicated, it's not necessarily a driving factor through most of it, but unfortunately, a lot of the storm sewer has to be removed in order to facilitate the sewer and water improvements that I just outlined. So we are going to be replacing a good portion of the sewer and water, or the storm sewer rather. There are some areas we'll be able to leave it. There are some other areas where we're just going to have to expand the collection capabilities, meaning add some additional inlets and things like that to meet some of the current design requirements that we have to follow. And then in the alley, we'll do a full replacement because of the condition of that pipe. So street and sidewalk, Willow Street. What I would tell people on Willow Street is Willow Street will be very, very similar to what it is right now from a geometric standpoint, meaning we're not planning to really significantly change the width or alignment or the grade or anything like that. It's going to remain very, very close to what it is. We're looking at a bituminous surface or an asphalt surface street from Sherrill to Rossman, and then a concrete surface between Rossman and Washington. We'll continue to have turf boulevards with trees. Like with any project of this nature, we will have to unfortunately do some tree removal. Wherever we can, we try to save the trees, wherever they're not causing problems or they're not in the way of some improvement, we try to save them. When we do have to remove the trees, we try to do some tree replacement as part of the project. Also on Willow Street, we'll be adding a crossing node at Rossman and Willow, sort of on that prominent crosswalk right off the corner of the Rossman Elementary School, where there is a fair amount of pedestrian crossing activity right there. So we'll do a little bit of a bump out where we neck down the street right there at the intersection, just to improve crossing safety. And I also want to point out that we potentially will be able to leave some curb and gutter in place on Willow between Sherrill and Campbell. Some of that's in pretty fair shape, but as every day goes by here, we're kind of finding reasons why we have to remove more and more of it. But we're hoping to be able to leave some of that in place if possible. On to Holmes Street. What I would tell people on Holmes is that it's going to look real similar to what you see on Washington Avenue downtown. The street will actually get narrowed up just a little bit. I think it's right around 3.5 feet. And then we'll have the colored and textured concrete boulevards, that red stamped concrete that's between the sidewalk and the street. But we'll narrow the street up. It'll still be plenty wide for on-street parking and things of that nature. Frazee Street, Washington Avenue to where there is that crossing between the clinic campuses there, kind of halfway point, will remain very similar to the existing. Again, it might narrow up just a little bit. We'll have the red stamped concrete boulevards, just like I talked about. And then from the clinic crossing to McKinley, what we're planning to do there is actually add a shared center left turn lane, so that common center left turn that you see in some spots. just because there is a fair amount of turning movement on and off of that street between the clinic and McKinley Plaza and Taco John's and things like that. There's a lot of turning movement, so we're going to try to put a center left turn in there. We're going to eliminate the on-street parking. There's plenty of off-street parking there, and that on-street parking actually can pose some issues with all the turning movements that happen. So in that case, we'll actually be narrowing the street pretty significantly. There'll still be some shoulder space, but we'll be looking at something that's about 7 feet narrower than what's there. And again, we'll have some colored concrete textured boulevards like we've discussed, along with some trees and things of that nature. Washington Avenue Alley, not much to say. We'll rip it up. It's in terrible shape, and we'll replace it with a concrete surfaced alley. A few comments on sidewalk. On Willow Street from Sherrill to Rossman, we'll replace all of the sidewalk in its sort of current configuration, current location. Not going to change much, just replace it. There is no sidewalk on the south side of the street, and that will continue to be the case. It'll just be on the north side of the street. Also on Willow Street from Rossman to Washington, we'll replace a majority of the sidewalk, which is located on both sides of the road. Again, some of that sidewalk is in pretty fair shape, and where it makes sense, and we get decent lengths of sidewalk that are in good shape and we can avoid taking them out, we're going to try to leave them. That might be limited, but we're going to try to do some of that. Home Street and Frazee Street, full replacement of the sidewalks, which are currently on both sides of the street. And then throughout the project, we'll be doing ADA pedestrian ramp improvements. That's something we're required to do under federal law. So we'll be ripping out all the ped ramps and making them compliant with the current standards. Frazee, I think this is about it here as far as proposed improvements. Frazee and McKinley intersection. The council had asked that we look for potential control improvements to that intersection. Right now, that's a four-way stop, depending on who you talk to. There's a fair contingency of people that dislike that intersection, and presumably it's because there's so many lanes of traffic coming up to a four-way stop. It can be a little challenging at times to sort of navigate the intersection, figure out whose turn it is to go, and you get a little of that start and stop stuff going on. So we did do a traffic study and an ICE report, which is something that we got to do to look at options for changing the intersection control. It does meet warrant for signals or a roundabout. The recommendation out of that study was a roundabout. I've pointed out in the past that it may surprise people, but the delay or the level of service at that intersection, as it's sort of measured under standard conditions, really isn't that poor. It's a level of service A or B, which those being top marks. Adding a roundabout will have just a modest improvement to that. It's not significant. What would change probably is maybe less confusion, maybe people feel like they flow through the intersection a little bit easier and don't have to be quite as aware as they pull up to it to figure out who's going next, that sort of thing. So for that reason, we were looking at doing a roundabout. We did evaluate signals, which are pretty similar to the cost of installing a roundabout. The challenge with the signal was that as we continue to grow, we're okay right now, but really any more traffic in that area, there would be some concerns about starting to stack or queue traffic up as you have a red light and queue it past some of the adjacent business approaches. So Central Market, Holiday, Taco John's, some of those areas. If we have a signal, you're stacking that traffic on two legs at a time and actually could stack past those approaches. So you solve one problem and sort of create another. And for that reason, that's why we were recommending the route. So on to the stuff that really everybody cares about the most probably is the project costs and financing. The table the table that's up on the screen right now outlines various components of the project and the total project cost. Like I indicated, this is a pretty sizable project, approaching $8 million. Vast majority of those costs are in the street and stormwater, but we still got well over $500,000 in water main improvements, almost $1 million in sanitary sewer improvements. and about $300,000 or almost $400,000 in streetscapes. So I will have, I want to stop and point out if people have questions on the costs. Jason from my office is going to be out in the hallway afterwards. He has some of this information, so if people are interested, they can look at it out in the hallway. And also, we will put this presentation on the city's website, so you'll be able to look at it at a later time. So that's the project costs. How do we pay for it? Where are the funding sources? There's a number of sources in this particular case. As usual, we will be using some of the city's utility funds, the sewer and water fund to pay for part of the project, general tax levy. We also have right around $2 million of municipal federal aid funds. This is something that we receive as a city from time to time, sort of when it's our turn and when we get an allocation every year and we sort of build it up and then spend it. This is one of those years. So these are some federal funds that we get by virtue of being a municipal state aid city. All cities over 5,000 in the state of Minnesota get some of this. It's effectively gas tax money. We'll also have applied to Minnesota Public Facilities Authority for some low-interest loans. And with any luck, we potentially would get a grant, most likely on the sanitary sewer side of things, since we have a fair amount of debt service on our sanitary sewer side of the funds right now, coming on the heels of a $30 million wastewater treatment facility. So we won't know that until probably around June of this year, of whether or not we get any grant money or it's just low interest loan. And then last but not least, a portion of the project is funded by special assessments to the adjacent property owners. The assessable costs out of that table that we just looked at, how much of that do we allocate to special assessment is determined by the city's special assessment policy. Generally speaking here, and I kind of have to be broad on this a little bit, but from a sewer and water standpoint, we assess 75% of the standard water main and sanitary sewer costs. The key in that word is standard. There's a lot of things that aren't standard or abnormal, and those sort of fall over to the city side, and we pay them as a taxpayer in general. It gets put onto the utility fund. So a standard water main and sanitary sewer is considered to be an 8-inch main. So anything larger than that, the city pays for. The city assumes that remaining 25%, oversizing, looping, and other non-assessable footage that we just can't collect. The city pays for replacement of utilities that are, let me back up. The city pays for replacement of utilities that are less than 40 years old. So there's portions of the Willow Street sewer that I had mentioned that were upsizing that was replaced in the 90s, and the city is having to pick that up through its utility fund and will not assess that sanitary sewer replacement. Service laterals are assessed at 100% rate for connection to a standard size main. So if we're connecting to a larger main, there's some added costs there that the city assumes. From a street reconstruction standpoint, we assess 50% of a standard street cost. And a standard street cost is considered to be a 36-foot wide, 5-ton design with a bituminous surface, and that's for a residential property. Commercial properties are assessed for 50% of the full street design at a 10-ton capacity. So if the street is wider and built heavier, those commercial properties do receive a bit of an additional assessment for that. The city assumes the remaining 50% oversizing. Increased cost for concrete surfacing has been the practice in the past, and streetscapes. The city also pays 100% of the costs related to storm sewer, the alley, streetscapes, and then in this case, the McKinley and Frazee roundabout. So that's a long way of saying everything that's contained in this table. What's on the screen outlines how this sort of all falls out once you put pencil to paper. You can see that total project costs over at the right-hand side, totaling up to that $7.8 million. The city, in this case, would be on the hook for about a little over $6 million, and the assessable share at $1.7 million. So the takeaway that I want to point out here is You heard me say that, the city assesses 75% of the sanitary sewer and water and 50% of the street. But the key, again, is that standard stuff that I talked about. And that really shifts a lot more burden over to the city. It almost reverses the role, where we're only assessing just a little over 20% of the project cost is going to get assessed, the balance being picked up by the city as a whole. So now those assessable costs that we looked at in this table at 1.7 million, how does that get allocated to the adjacent properties? Again, we look at the special assessment policy that the city has and past practices to allocate those costs. The costs are basically divided by assessable units or the frontage that's available to determine a rate, and commonly it's so much per foot. When we do that, boy, I think I'm missing a slide in here. 1 minute, please. Sure am. All right, sorry about that. So as far as allocating sewer and water costs, sewer and water is assessed on a front footage basis. So it's basically the footage is typically the width of your lot. And if you're a corner lot, but you're served from one of the mains being improved, your footage is measured off the short side of your lot, regardless of whether that's the side of the lot that's abutting the improvement or not. We measure everybody's benefit off the short side for sewer and water. And so effectively this comes out and generates a cost per foot. Service laterals are assessed on an each basis. Street gets a little bit more complex. Interior lots, it's the dimension of the side abutting the improvement. So for all practical purposes, it's the width of your lot. Corner lots get a little bit tougher. You're assessed for the footage that's abutting the improvement. So if you have a corner lot and you're alongside of the improvement, your front footage is the short side of your lot, and that's the dimension of the side abutting the improvement, your lot width, or it's side lot, which is the long side of your lot. And the way we figure footage on those is it's 50% of the dimension of the longer side up to 150 feet, plus any footage over 150 feet. If you happen to be a corner lot that gets improvements on both sides of your property, those two get added up. But in this case, I don't think we have any properties that are getting improved on both sides. So here's sort of how this all shakes out. The table up here is the estimated assessment rate. Now I gotta emphasize these are estimates. These are my estimates. These are not off of bid prices. Ultimately, we go out to bid. The contractors determine the price of the project. We do our best to speculate on that based on information we're seeing in past and current. But based on all that, this is where we think all this is gonna shake out. You're gonna be looking at, if you're a residential property, about $125 a foot for the street and surface improvements. A little bit higher, like I indicated, for commercial properties at just under $140. Sanitary sewer, a little over $60 a foot. A sewer service at about $1,500. Water main at about $53 a foot. And then a residential water service at about $1,800, and commercial services, which are larger, at about $3,600. This is a table that sort of shows estimated typical assessments for both residential and commercial properties, different sized lots. I'd caution you that if you haven't picked up on it by now, this project has lots of variables depending block to block to block. So this is sort of assuming sort of a worst case scenario that if you're a residential property and you have a 100-foot wide lot and we did street improvements and you're being assessed for sewer and water and service laterals, you'd be looking at a special assessment in the area of $27,000. Likewise, if you're at a 50-foot lot, you'd be in the area of about $15,000. Same is true on the commercial side, just using some of those commercial rates. But again, everybody's situation's a little bit different. I see Mr. Pender here from Bremer. Bremer, for example, on Home Street, we're not doing any sewer and water improvements. Those utilities are good, so you'd be looking at only a street improvement. So I would encourage people to, give us a call and ask questions if you need help determining what your special assessment's going to look like. We're happy to do that. So, again, I've got some slides that are hidden. I don't know why I did this. 1 second. So terms and conditions of the special assessment, and how these work. We would complete an assessment hearing after we take bids, probably sometime in May, maybe a little bit earlier of '21. We'll notify everybody with a written notice, send you your estimated assessments. Those will be based on the as-bid construction costs. So those are more accurate and more final than what I'm presenting tonight. Then the assessments are generally levied across those properties starting in 2022. They go on your property tax for a 20-year term. Historically been around 5%, sometimes a little less. In terms of an interest rate, that will depend on the financing that the city's able to secure. Gets calculated into where they set that interest rate. And just like any loan, any prepayment, either all or a portion of that assessment either eliminates or reduces interest charges. If you pay it in full before it's certified to the tax rolls, you avoid that interest charge, or if you do a portion of it, you can reduce those interest charges. A little bit on project schedule. We're going to finish up the design here over the course of the winter. We have our public hearing tonight. We'll be looking at trying to bid the project sometime in hopefully April, with an assessment hearing in May. Award the construction contract kind of in that May, June timeframe, and then starting construction this summer and finishing up in 2022. I realize there's probably going to be a lot of questions about, well, where are we starting and how is this all going to lay out? It will likely be constructed over 2 years just simply because of the size of the project. The phasing of the project is something I still have to nail down over the coming couple of months here. There's a lot of factors that I sort of need more information on before we can make that call. Likely we'll have some additional meetings, either individual one-on-one meetings with property owners as needed. We also might hold up like a public pre-construction meeting. Once we have a contractor on board and we know their plan of attack, we may call everybody together and be able to provide some more detailed information. So in the meantime, just call our office if you have a question or specific needs. There's some contact info on the screen with you up here. And I think with that, I will turn it back to the mayor.
Okay, thanks, John. So we do have some folks here. Any questions or comments from anybody?
I guess did you say, John, that our property distance is going to be based on the short side of our building?
For sewer and water, the assessment calculation for sewer and water is based on the short side of your property if you're a corner lot.
Yeah.
And if you're a corner lot, we base it on the short side, regardless of whether that's actually facing the improvement or not. The bigger question is, it's always a little tricky to tell on a corner lot, are you served off of, say, Willow, or are you served off at one of the side or intersecting streets? What I failed to mention, Mayor, is I have Jason Coley from our office here tonight, and he has a lot more detailed information out in the hallway. He may be able to answer that question, and probably can even walk you through a little bit of an assessment calculation to give you kind of a rough idea of what that's looking like. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So Jason's actually back here, I think.
Jason's back here. He moved on.
But he'll be out in the hall.
He'll
if
be
you
out
guys
in the
wanna
hallway.
stop it.
Yep.
If you want to stop Bob and talk to him, he'll be.
He's got some detailed drawings and things like that just don't show up very well on here, and you can look at it and ask him all sorts of questions. And if he can't answer it, let him get your contact information and I will follow up with you. That's correct, Mason. Yeah, we'll rip it up. We've got to get the storm sewers literally like falling apart under there. So we got to get the storm sewer replaced, but then we will redo the alley and it will be a concrete surface through there. No, alleyways, and if I didn't outline that, which I might not have, alleyways are not assessed. The city, under its current policy, that is not an assessable cost.
Okay, further questions?
I got a question regarding that 5% interest rate.
Yep.
How is that determined again?
I might lean on Kelsey for this one a little bit.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, so what we do is we add 2% over whatever our cost is for the money. So in recent years, we've had really low interest rates, so if we get money at a 1% rate, then the assessment rate is 3%. And that 2% basically covers our issuance costs and any other carrying costs. So if we go out and finance and it's 2%, then the assessment rate's 4%. So, 5% is where it probably was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And we've just been in such low interest
Correct.
market right now. We've been beating that.
I
on
think the
most
last,
projects.
I think on West and Willow, it was right around 3%.
3%, I think.
Yeah.
Further questions?
I've got a question, and it's in regards to that roundabout on McKinley and Frazee. I thought we were going to remove that from this project.
Yeah, Alderman Zeman, that has been the discussion at the committee level, but I wanted to bring this to the full council for discussion to, if we elect to remove that, that certainly can be done.
Okay, we've talked about this before, but that intersection, I think, is only like about maybe 10 years old. I doubt if it's even paid for yet. We're probably still making payments on that intersection, and now we want to go out and spend another $383,000. And looking at the reports that we received back from state, it pretty well showed that that intersection has been very safe, and very little accidents, a couple minor fender benders, but I just think that we're looking at taxpayers' dollars here for us to go ahead and do a do-over on the project's post. We were told that it was going to last 30 to 40 years. To rip it out after 10 years doesn't make any sense at all. And looking at these costs up here, a lot of people, residential areas, trying to pay $27,000, $31,000 for a lot of people in those areas. That's a lot of money for people, and even for some of the businesses, what's happening right now. I think we have to do whatever we can to bring these costs down. I would certainly hope that the council people here will agree with me that we just can't afford to have do-overs on projects this is a fairly new project, and it has worked well. And another thing is, we just put in 2 new roundabouts. I'd like to see how those new roundabouts work in the summertime when we have a lot of traffic, and just see how they do work inside town. We know they work on the edge of town, but I want to see how they work in town. But I would like to see those, that roundabout to be removed from this project.
Mayor, if I
Go
may.
ahead, Matt.
Mr. Pratt, please refresh my memory, because that ICE report came out back in December, I believe, and didn't it come out as an elevated risk intersection there?
There is the crash rate at the intersection is elevated. It's higher than, and when I say elevated, it's higher than the statewide average. So from a crash standpoint, they didn't call it serious. You have to get to another threshold to sort of get that accolade,
Okay.
but it is elevated.
Okay.
Yep, that is correct.
And that came from the report?
That came out of the ICE report, that's
But
correct.
And I guess I look at this, and knowing that, whether we do it now or whether we do it in 10 years, I guess I'm indifferent on that. My feeling is, talking to the constituents, I get a lot of complaints about that intersection in town. Whether it's unfortunately the downfall of the Minnesota Knights. You pull up and you don't know if car 6 is going, or car 1, car 4, car 6. It's just that confusion there. Where I think if we can eliminate that, that would help. Whether the time to do that is now, or whether the time to do that is in 6 years, that is up for debate in my mind, I guess.
I think looking at that report, it showed the number of accidents. It was very few. I think it was less than a dozen over since that was put in place 9 years ago. I mean, that isn't very many accidents. And again, talking about the dollars here on this thing, we just don't have that type of money that I feel we could throw away after. We're still making payments on the thing. How many of you do that at home? Put in new cupboards and pull them out in 5 years and let's do it again, honey. You just don't do that in real life. We got people trying to make their house payments and taxes and everything else right now, and we've got to do what we can do to make sure that every tax dollar is put to good work. And I think we should continue with what we have. I travel that road all the time. I'm probably downtown more than anybody, and you whiz right through there. Even in the summertime, it's not a big issue. So I hope that we can remove this from this project.
Mayor, could I make a couple clarifications
Go
here?
ahead, John.
Just to be clear, us looking at this intersection was purely in a response to the council asking us to look at it. Whether we do this now or we do it later, I mentioned at Public Works, believe it or not, it would be fine from my perspective. We're simply providing the options that the council wanted to look at. If we decide to defer this, it's not too terrible of a deal from the standpoint that a lot of times you like to do these improvements when they're sort of connected to a project, or you end up duplicating some costs. And in this case, you don't really have that. We could punt this and do it down the road and really not double up on any of the costs.
Well, we're going to need to approve a resolution this evening.
Say,
I
Mayor,
guess, Mayor,
Go ahead, Madeline.
I guess I'd like to point out that Public Works discussed this yesterday in quite a bit of detail, and the majority of the Finance Committee agreed that this perhaps is not the time to do that, as long as it doesn't hinder us in doing it at a future date. I guess the Finance Committee felt that we would be better off to take it out of this project for the time being.
So why don't we do this?
Your
Why
Honor?
don't we, go ahead, Dan.
I need to make one comment here. I mean, I know people that live in the McKinley building, and they've talked about people that basically just drive through that intersection, and I've seen it myself. Don't even slow down. If we're not gonna put a roundabout there, we better do something about making sure people know that it is a four-way stop, because those stop signs, especially on Frazee coming from the east, that there's one stop sign over there, and I don't even think people see it coming in the left turn or middle lane. So something's got to be done to at least increase the visibility to make sure people don't just come rolling through there. Thank you.
I would suggest that we get a motion on the table to
say,
remove the,
We need to close the hearing,
yeah,
I think,
we
Mayor.
close, the public hearing is technically still open, so we
Okay.
can see if there's
that,
any
the
other.
public hearing's closed, and I would suggest to the council that we have a motion regarding the roundabout and vote on that before we do the resolution, because the resolution's actually calling for plans and specs to move forward. Right, John?
That's correct.
So if somebody want to make a motion on the roundabout?
I would make a motion that we remove the roundabout from this project.
Is there a second?
I would second that.
Is there further discussion?
I just have a comment.
ahead.
I know we're talking about not being paid for or whatever, but this intersection has evolved quite a bit over the last 5 years. When that intersection was put in originally, it was basically, Holiday was on one corner, the Sinclair Station was another, and we had the opposite corner where McKinley Plaza is pretty empty. So there has been a lot of justification to make improvements to this intersection, whether we do it now or we do it next year or the year after is, kind of up for discussion. But I just want to point out that there has been a lot of development down there that's causing a lot more pressure on that intersection than just, we built it 10 years ago and we should live with it forever.
Well, I want to repeat, when we did this, we were told this intersection 30 to 40-year use. We're probably.
I have to say one more thing on that. Yeah, okay, 10 years ago it was 30 or 40 years, but there's at least 2 new businesses that went in on that intersection since this was put in, so things have changed. Thank you, Dan, for pointing that out.
I would like to say I agree with Ron regarding these roundabouts. We put quite a few in this area lately. Let's see how they pan out, how they work out. I drive by that area all the time. I know it's an issue, but I think what's going on in today's world, I think the timing's not perfect.
Okay, further discussion. We have a motion and a second on the table to remove the roundabout from the project. Further discussion.
Mayor, if I could,
Go ahead.
I do agree with Dan if this was a church built for 50 people, in the past 5 years, you've got an extra 50, 100, 200 people coming, whether they got the building paid for or not, you got to do something. And I guess that's how I look at this is, if it's not meeting the needs, which according to the report, it's an elevated, and those guys are professionals who write the report, if it's an elevated risk level, we need to at least put this on. If this gets voted down, I wish, or I hope that this gets added to the CIP plan for a couple of years, a year down the road, that we can revisit this. And maybe the timing is better there, looking at the road conditions that is suitable in this instance, but also the bigger projects we have coming up as well.
Okay. Any further comments?
Well, I'm just gonna say, we've got a lot of projects that we could use $383,000 on. We don't have a bucket full of money to waste, and I see this as a waste.
Okay. I'm going to call the question. The motion is to remove the roundabout. Wenner,
No.
Dahlman,
Aye.
somebody going to keep track of this? Okay. Mark Erickson,
Aye.
Zeman,
Aye.
Spry,
Aye.
Josephson,
No.
Suki,
Aye.
Bly,
No.
Bulky.
No?
Well, how did we come out? Seems kind of close.
I have 4 no's. That'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses.
Okay. So the motion carries. Now, I would entertain a motion to move forward with authorizing the improvements for the project and the plans and specifications.
Here, the Public Works Committee reviewed this, and we moved that we should move forward with this project.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to authorize improvements and ordering the preparation of plans and specifications for Willow, Holmes, Frazee, and the alley to the east of Washington Avenue between Frazee and Holmes? Okay,
Yes, Same, Mayor,
yes.
just a point for doing the resolution, ordering the improvement, we do need a 4/5 majority to pass it, so just want to make that clear.
But the other motion, we're okay on.
The other motion, we're fine.
Fine.
Okay, any more discussion? I'll call the question. Bulky,
Aye.
Bly,
Aye.
Suki,
Aye.
Josephson,
Aye.
Spry,
Aye.
Zeman,
Aye.
Mark Erickson,
Aye.
Dahlman,
Aye.
Wenner.
Aye.
The motion carries. And Dan, maybe next month you could put on the public safety agenda about the stop signs on that intersection, because I think you make a good point.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. I'm glad I did that. At least I'll be happy to bring it up at public safety.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming, everybody. If you have any questions, Jason, are you going to be out there? Okay.
6:30.
At this time, I'll call to order, or adjourn the regular council meeting and call to order a public hearing to receive public comments on the matter of annexation of a 1.13 acre tract of land in Lakeview Township and zoning the tract RM Multifamily Residence District at 1537 Legion Road. Is this something Larry's going to take? Larry, go ahead.
Yes, this is an annexation of a 1.13 acre tract of land in the Legion Road area. There are several potential annexations in that area, and we chose to start with this one. It's a 60% surrounded, and the township has not raised any objection. In fact, they sent a resolution stating they had no objection to the annexation.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience? There's nobody zooming in either, I assume, that would have any comments? Okay, so that public hearing is closed. I would entertain a motion.
Yeah, this is a consideration to the first reading of ordinance 474 for annexation of a 1.13 acre tract of land in Lakeview Township and zoning the tract RM Multifamily Residence District at 1537 Legion Road. The Community Development Committee reviewed this, recommends approval, and I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
The motion has been made and seconded to give first reading to ordinance 474. Discussion? Roll call vote. Spry,
Aye.
Zeman,
Aye.
Mark Erickson,
Aye.
Dahlman,
Aye.
Wenner,
Aye.
Bulky, Bly,
Aye.
Suki, Madeline, Josephson.
Aye.
Motion carries. even without two people. At this time, I'll call to order a public hearing to give consideration to the establishment of redevelopment project number 41, the development plan and establishment of tax increment financing district 41-1 for Tower Heights. Larry?
Yes, this is for a tax increment financing plan for a housing project. The total project cost is $15 million. It includes 48 rental units and 42 single-family units. The amount that's requested is $1,615,900. That's approximately 11% of the project cost, and this amount is estimated to be paid out in 18 years. Now, the Detroit Lakes Development Authority has reviewed this plan and has approved the tax increment and the development plan.
Okay. Any questions for Larry regarding the program there?
Well, Larry, on this project, part of this TIF is going to help with income-based housing, is that correct?
That is correct. 40% of the rental units would go to people that are at 60% of median income, and 95% of the single-family units would go to people that are at 115% of median income. So it does serve low and moderate income families.
Okay, thank you. Further questions or discussion?
Well, I just want to comment, that's one reason why I'm in favor of this TIF is because it does help low-income people with their housing. And normally I wouldn't support a TIF for an apartment house for single-family housing, but it does help the need that we've been looking for to help income-based housing.
I would entertain a motion.
I would so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution establishing redevelopment project number 41, approving the redevelopment plan, and establishing TIF financing district 41-1. Any more discussion? I'll do a roll call vote. Suki? Bly?
Aye.
Boki?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Wenner?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
The motion carries. That brings us up to the Community Development Committee agenda. Chairman Josephson.
Yes, item 5A is consideration to a resolution approving a conditional use permit to allow operation of a state licensed substance use disorder treatment facility serving up to 15 individuals at 921 8th Street Southeast, the Refuge. Larry, you want to give us a little bit of background on this?
Yes, the refuge currently has a conditional use permit at this location to serve up to 15 women for substance abuse treatment services. They are now changing their programming and they want to serve men, and they have requested a new conditional use permit. The Planning Commission reviewed this and is recommending that we approve the facility for up to 15 individuals, so that in the future, if the refuge changes their programming and decides to serve men or women, we don't have to keep coming back and reissuing a conditional use permit. So the Planning Commission recommends approval.
And the CDC recommends approval after discussion last night, and I so move.
Second.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution approving a conditional use permit to allow an operation of a state licensed facility up to 15 individuals at 921 8th Street Southeast. Further discussion? I'll do a roll call vote. Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Wenner?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Boki?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
And we'll see if Madeline can hear us now.
Aye.
Yeah, we can hear you.
It's because it's cutting in and out.
Yeah, we got you back now. Thank you. Go ahead, Dan.
Item 5B is consideration to a resolution approving the final plat of Lakeview on Englewood. It's been reviewed by the Planning Commission, reviewed by the CDC last night, recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the final plat of Lakeview on Englewood. Discussion? A roll call vote. Wenner?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Mark Sirksen.
Aye.
Zeman.
Aye.
Spry.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Suki.
Aye.
Bly.
Aye.
Bulky.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item 5C is consideration to a resolution setting a public hearing for the proposed vacation of a portion of a dedicated public road at the plat of Pekegama Beach in the area of 1346 East Shore Drive. Setting that resolution for a hearing next month, February 9th. CDC recommends approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution setting a public hearing for next month's council meeting to consider a proposed vacation of part of Pokegama Beach at 1346 East Shore Drive. Discussion? Roll call vote. Bulky?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
Suki?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Mark Sirksen?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Wenner?
Aye.
Motion carries. Anything
Got
else,
nothing
Dan?
further.
Okay, we're down to the Public Works Committee. Chairman Suki? Are you there, Madeline?
Well, I am fading in and out. It seems to be, I've shut everything off and I'm still fading in and out. So.
Do you
what
want
I would-
somebody else from the committee to take it?
What I would suggest is that,
Okay.
yes. Either that or be prepared to hop in if I disappear.
Natalie, do
Like
you
right
want
now.
to, do you want to take it? Or Jamie?
I can, yeah. I can. Hang on.
Go ahead,
I'll
Natalie.
take it, okay. So the first item we had on the Public Works agenda was the discussion and review related to the streetscapes for North Washington, or North Shore and South Washington intersection. So I will turn it over to our city engineer, John Pratt, to share those updates or new renderings.
Go ahead, John.
Mayor and council, again, bear with me here while I waddle through technology. Okay, so this is a continuation of the discussion that we've had over the last several months, really. Slowly been making some progress towards what I hope to be a fairly close to final concept for some of the streetscaping down at the intersection of North Shore Drive and South Washington. For some of the newer council members, we've been taking this sort of in steps, adding some enhancement and streetscape elements down to this intersection. And one of the remaining pieces that we really haven't pinned down was this kind of plaza area. It'd be in the southeast corner of the intersection, so in the corner of City Park. Several iterations, this is sort of where we've landed. By no means does this have to be final. My hope is that it's close. And I've got a couple of just images on the screen. You can kind of see what we're looking at here. Here's sort of an overhead view. I guess the significant pieces would be the landscape architect that came up with this is looking at some form of a pergola kind of in the background. We're working on refurbishing the sailboat that was down at the beach. That was something that was being done as part of the 150th. We would place that here, do some lighting on it, have some plantings, things like that, some colored and decorative concrete, and just sort of an entranceway to the beach area and the city park. So those are the concepts, and I guess I think what we're looking for is at least some general consensus from the council. That's always a tough thing on these sorts of things to get into the weeds, but looking for people to point out if they're adamant about a certain change or just hate the whole thing, or if they're in general supportive, so that we can continue to move ahead on it.
Any comments?
I think it just adds to that, Mayor and Council. The committee discussion, we talked about getting some more cost information about some of the different aspects. So like the pergola, I think we were kind of maybe some split feelings on it, but until we really, that's one item that we've never priced out yet, so until we come back and have some idea of what that cost is going to be for the committee to discuss it and whether or not to move forward. And again, we continue to have some discussions about those wayfinding markers. Again, I think we had some different concepts, which I don't know if we need to go through, but I think we have a little more direction, and the plan is to come back next month to Public Works with maybe a few tweak modifications and then some cost estimates and have another discussion. But like John said, hopefully we're getting a little bit closer to what we want to do.
I don't want to put the effort in of, starting to track down costs and go any further if there's just no reason to. But if in general everybody is supportive of, yeah, okay, let's take the next step and figure out the cost, this would not be your last opportunity to sort of shut this down if we wanted to. We'll come back with some cost stuff.
So John, on my agenda, I open up this thing and it's just got some renderings of those brick towers. Were you intending to have some of those concepts included in here?
I have some of those separately. Hang tight here for a second. And
Maybe you could send that out before sometime so everybody can look at them.
I can do that. Both of these I could get sent out. So these are the monuments that we've been talking about in sort of a related matter.
Okay, so for now.
I'll send them out.
For now, without objection, we're going to defer any action, but everybody will be getting those concepts to look at prior to next month, right? Is that okay? Okay.
Yes, plus Mayor?
Yes.
Am I on? Yeah. We'd also talked at Public Works about trying to include in those monuments more of something that would be indicative of Detroit Lakes, like the waves or sails or something like that. So rather than just the straight type monument you're seeing here.
Okay.
As well as suggestions on verbiage too. I mean, we're definitely not stuck on Washington Avenue. I know that was discussed at the Public Works as well as we've discussed that at the subcommittee as well.
Okay. Go ahead, Natalie.
Okay, with no other discussion, we talked about roundabout safety. The features there on that intersection was to add speed limit signs. Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I mean, just to round out the discussion, there's been some concern by some the council members relative to the safety of the mini roundabouts, and one of the things that we talked about is we're working on adding advisory speed placards to the roundabout ahead signs, so the yellow signs that have the roundabout symbol and say roundabout ahead, we would put an advisory speed placard for those that can't figure out that you shouldn't try to drive 30 through them,
So is there, and maybe this was discussed, I wasn't able to be at the meeting today or yesterday, you're supposed to yield to the left, right?
Yeah.
If you're going in there and somebody's coming from my right, I'm supposed to have the right of way, correct?
I'm glad that you gave me the opportunity to bring this up again.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, I have been watching this, and there are some challenges, at times frustrating, but we are still trying to, do some public education. To your point, the number one thing that people need to understand with any roundabout, and the minis are a little bit trickier that way, is you yield to the traffic to your left. All you have to do is look for traffic to your left. If it's clear and you're not going to hit anybody to your left, you're free to proceed. You don't need to worry about the person to your right. You shouldn't need to worry about the person to your right. Look to your left. You're yielding to the person to your left.
So there's no consideration to putting something on the yield sign that says yield to your left?
We could. We absolutely could, and unfortunately, I would tell you, I've thought about it. I just hate to put up more signs, but we might be getting to that point.
Okay. Well, let's keep that in mind anyway. Go ahead, Natalie.
Well, I was going to say one other thing on the safety issue too was talking about pedestrian crossing, and we hope that with 10-mile-per-hour speed limits on that, that'll help pedestrian crossing. So we hope that'll work that out, otherwise we'll have to revisit that.
Okay.
Okay, and then we discussed Highland Drive too, Mr. Pratt.
Mayor and council, I think this is my last item tonight. Nope, not quite. City Administrator Kelsey and I met with Jim Olson, the county engineer here, within the last couple of weeks, trying to sort of rebirth some discussion on Highland Drive. Everybody's pretty familiar that that road is in really tough shape. Technically, it's a township road. About a year ago, we attempted to partner with the township, and we drafted a local road improvement grant application in pursuit of about $1 million in grant from the state to help fund an improvement on that roadway. Ultimately, that fell apart. The township didn't pass a resolution supporting that, and so things kind of stopped there. At this point, the county has talked to us about potentially being a partner. They may, in fact, take the lead. That's something that we've got to sort out yet, but they've talked to the township about swapping some mileage where they would give the township some of their mileage on 131, and that would become a township road, and then Highland Drive would potentially become a county road. I'd emphasize this is all just discussion at this point, but has been passed around and seems to be kind of favorable on all sides. So at this point, what we're doing is trying to scope out a project that we could pursue, an LRIP grant application again. The thing I want to make sure the council's aware of is the discussion that we had with Becker County was trimming the project back a bit. We're effectively going to commit to not putting any sewer and water in out on Highland Drive, which I think that's the right decision. I think it's just probably a little premature for sewer and water out there. And then also the previous concept was, a little wider road with curb and gutter, a little bit more urban. And after some discussion, we kind of felt like we could, yes, we need to widen the road out. It's too narrow, but we could do something along the lines of about a 32-foot wide road or a 36-foot wide road with no curb and gutter, just a rural section. So that's sort of the path we're heading down, and I think we just wanted the council to be aware of that. The LRIP grant applications are due in March, so there'll be some subsequent discussion and approval that'll have to happen between now and then.
Okay.
Then moving on to, we discussed the snow emergency parking and that it was almost too late in the season to update any of those ordinances. So we will continue those discussions this season and approve anything before next winter season.
Mayor, if I could?
Yep.
With that, could I send back an action item to the Public Works to address or to visit the sidewalk plowing as well? I know we've got some complaints about that. I don't know if it's valid anymore. Do we need it? Do we not? I know it's been a long time since we've looked at that, so if we could have that Public Works look at that as well.
Okay, we can do that.
Thank you.
We discussed yard waste ordinance also, and no action was taken on that either. And then the item F, consideration to the resolution updating the PERS for Lake Forest 7th edition. That was sent out later in addition to the agenda.
There you go.
The report, the memo was.
Okay, so the report was sent out to the council?
It was.
Okay. So just a high level on that, Natalie, I'll just overview this for the council. This is an addition to the preliminary engineering report that we completed for Lake Forest. We've been talking about for several months. If you recall, we had a couple of people come to the public hearing last month that live along 270th there. They're within the city limits. There's kind of a small neighborhood, 4 or 5 people or homes. And they had asked, were interested in potentially some street improvements to 270th. So the addendum that I sent out addresses the possible improvements there. Half of that road is effectively under the jurisdiction of the city and half is under the township. So we would be looking to the township for half of the project cost. The remaining half would be covered by the city and special assessments. And I think what we're doing is calling for a hearing next month to notice those half a dozen properties, have them come in, see if they'd like to proceed. And in the meantime, we'll continue discussions with the township. I was at their meeting last night and presented the information.
Thank you. So with that, we have a consideration to a resolution ordering the update to the PER for Lake Forest 7th edition to include possible street improvements to 270th 270th Avenue, and setting a public hearing for February, and I so move.
Is there a second to that?
Second?
There's a second. Any further discussion? Okay, then, get my list here. We'll go with Wendy,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Natalie.
Aye.
Okay, we got Dan,
Aye.
Jamie. Then
Aye.
Okay, then Madeline.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. The mayor will be back in just a minute, he said here. Let's see, the next item then for you, Natalie.
Yep, so following right up with item G, we have a consideration to the final payment for Felt Plumbing for the Veterans Memorial Parkway project, and Public Works reviewed, and I so move.
Is there a second
Second.
to it? Okay, there's a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, go with the motion. We have Wendy,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
we have Matt,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Natalie,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Jamie, and we have
Aye.
Madeline.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Next item then.
The consideration to the final payment for Hammers Construction for the South Shore Park Shelter project. Public Works reviewed, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second?
There's a second. Any further discussion? Okay, and then Wendy,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
Matt,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Natalie,
Aye.
Madeline,
Aye.
Jamie,
Aye.
Dan.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then we have the last item for the city engineer's monthly project status report. John Pratt.
I'll attempt to be brief, so. Just a couple items I want to touch on, most notably leading off here with item number 1, Westlake Drive, Legion to 6, just a little bit of an update. We have had some movement on that. As you're aware, we're working through the legal contention and related to the right-of-way on Westlake Drive. The update last month is the court did side in favor of the county and the city in determining that there is in fact a right-of-way there. The asterisk on that was that they went back to both the property owners and the county and said you need to agree as to where the right-of-way is, because we're working with documents from 1873. Both sides submitted arguments where they thought that that should be located. Of course, we're not arguing the same things there. The defendants or the property owners in this case have argued that the location should be based off of the 1873 road order that was used to determine that there was a right-of-way, and the county made an argument that no, we should use the right-of-way plat that was created in 2019, which was largely based off of that. So we're stuck a little bit there. The court ruled in favor of the defendants in that particular case, saying that the location does need to be based off of the 1873 road order. So now we're sort of waddling through that process with surveyors trying to determine how to do that off of a document that is quite old, antiquated, contains some obvious errors to it, and so it's just more stuff that we need to work through. But we're making progress. We're still heading down a parallel path, preparing for condemnation if we need to. We really don't want to go down that path if we don't need to, but in order to continue with the project schedule and get this project encumbered this year with the federal funding, we may have to. So that's the update on that. Other than that, items to update, I think we talked enough about South Washington, Long Pine Estates. Talked about the Willow and Home Street project tonight. I don't have anything more to add. Overly relevant.
Thank you, John.
Okay, we do have one more item on the Public Works agenda that was added. We have the approval of we received an application for frozen food trucks as a part of Polar Fest. So it was submitted by Polar Fest or Propel DL for February 13th. They begin setup at 8 a.m. and tear down by 4 p.m. with offering lunch. So Public Works reviewed the application, and I I so move.
Second it.
Motion's been made, seconded to approve the application for food trucks for the Polar Fest. Discussion? Roll call vote. Bulky?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
Suki?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Mark Erickson?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Wenner?
Aye.
Motion carries. That should do it for that agenda, right? I think so. We're on to the Finance Committee. Ron?
Okay, the first item, 7A, is a Detroit Lakes Country Club project update. I'm going to turn it over to Kelsey to give us an update where we're at. If you remember, we had an agreement with them. If they raised so much money, we would help them out so they could do their project out there, and Kelsey will tell you all about it.
Mayor and council, that's correct. A little over a year ago, the city council approved a contribution of $50,000 that was to be contributed over 2 years in 2020, 25,000 in 2020, 25,000 in 2021 from the liquor fund. The only caveat to that was the country club had come back and basically provide evidence that they have the funds to do the remaining part of the project. So between the basically the contributions that they've received from other donors and using their operating revenue, they've basically raised the other proceeds needed to complete the project. The project's been bid. I think they're ready to award the bid and start construction. So at this point, there's really no council action needed because they met the terms of the motion that was made a year ago. But we did get a project update at the Finance Committee. And it should be a nice add-on to the clubhouse, a nice little remodel, new bar area, should spruce it up. So.
And the good news is that they think it's only going to take about 2 months. It'll be done well ahead of the golf season, so it'll tie right in with them. Okay,
There is another item, right, Ron? The
yes,
franchise agreement?
Yes, and right now I've got a resolution for a city public hearing for February 9th for a council meeting for a franchise agreement with Midco Cable Company. And so the motion for that resolution.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to set a public hearing on the discussion of a franchise agreement with Midco Cable. Discussion? Wenner?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Mark Erickson?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Suki?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
The motion carries. Anything else, Ron?
Yes, I'd like to have Heidi, our finance officer, go over our funds from food and beverage, our local option sales tax, and our liquor store sales, seeing that we're at the year's end, and give the public an update of where we're at on those. If you could do that, please, Heidi.
I certainly can, Ron and council. You'll see on the screen and in your packets, there are updated figures, and this isn't, I'll give the caveat, this isn't the end of what we'll receive for 2020 food and beverage tax and local option sales tax receipts, but we are getting close. We have our estimate through November. We don't have final November figures yet, and of course, we don't have final December figures at this point. The overall food and beverage tax is obviously down quite a bit due to COVID and some of the restrictions on food and beverage establishments in the city. The good news, I guess, from the city standpoint is we haven't bonded against these funds, and so we weren't necessarily needing to hit a certain value in receipts in order to pay back bonds or complete certain projects. And I think we've, once the pandemic hit, we took charge right away and reworked our estimates for future, the rest of 2020 and 2021 as well, just to make sure that we weren't over projecting what we might receive. And so I think this puts us in a really good position where the projects that we've already committed funding toward will be able to move forward just fine, even, through the difficulties of COVID. And as long as there isn't, another year plus in really, really lower receipts, lower than 2020 even, we should be able to be just fine for the rest of the projects that we had in our plan. So kind of good news, bad news. Obviously, November and December are going to not look too great with things being shut down as well, but not as bad as honestly as we had originally thought it would be. Moving on to the local option sales tax. Those receipts, we now have 1 month of overlap, so the tax went into effect October of 2019, and we have final figures through October of 2020. As you can see, October 19 to 2020 was an increase of 10.23%, so doing really well in collections on the local option sales tax. And again, this goes to pay for the new police facility, which is being constructed right across the street here from the DLCCC. And it's my projection that if our receipts continue at the level that we've received, we should be able to pay off those bonds by the fall of 2023. The original maturity date of those bonds is February of 2028. So a significant decrease in the term of those bonds, which equals interest savings for the city. And then finally, we have the liquor store sales report, and I don't want to steal all of Randy's thunder at the liquor store, but they had just an incredible year, extremely busy, almost 20% increased sales over 2019 sales. So phenomenal year over at the liquor store.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you,
thank you very
Heidi.
much, Heidi. That's all, Your Honor.
Okay, let's move to the Public Safety Committee. Chairman Wenner.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yep.
Item A on the agenda is that Turn-In Poachers wants to make a donation to the fire department of $3,000. We need to formally accept that, and there's a resolution included, and so I move that we accept the donation to the fire department of $3,000 from Turn-In Poachers.
Second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept a donation from Turn-In Poachers to the fire department in the amount of $3,000 for fire equipment. Discussion? Josephson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Suki? Bly?
Aye.
Mark Xerxen?
Aye.
Bulkey?
Aye.
Dolman?
Aye.
Wenner?
Aye.
The motion carries. Anything else, Dan?
And I was hoping
that's
Chief
right.
Todd there, was hoping to have him give us an update on
Yes.
progress on the new police building.
Yes, please do, Chief.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me. The project's going very well. Hopefully you all got to see the stonework on the exterior of the building, particularly on the northwest corner. It looks very, very nice, and it will get acid washed, so it'll even look better once they do that washing process. The masons have moved down to the northeast corner of the building, and they'll work back in a westerly direction. So there's stone, basically a wainscoting of stone up to the window sills, and then brick up above that. So they'll be working this direction from there. It's going very well. Inside, drywall is really making a lot of progress. They're doing a lot of mudding and taping inside. HVAC has really made a lot of headway, and they're starting to install cable trays for all the internet cables up in the ceiling. So really excited how it's turning out. Today I invited the Police Civil Service Commissioners to go on a tour, and I was actually able to connect with Jim Sinclair and brought him through the building, and hopefully we can get the other two members when their schedule allows. Again, if any of you are interested in a tour, please give me a call or leave a message at the office, and I'll work out getting you through so you can see how things are coming along. You have any questions, sir?
When do you think you'll be in there?
That's the million-dollar question, but.
By May? You think by April?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think April, May is realistic. Some areas are ahead, some areas are a little behind, but overall it's going very well.
Thank you for the update. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you, Chief. Nothing further, Your Honor.
We'll move to the liquor gambling control. Matt?
Item 9A is consideration of an off-site gambling permit application for DL Youth Hockey at the Kent Freeman Arena. This is for a one-night event in February 11th for their annual fundraiser. It was discussed at Liquor and Gambling, and I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to, I lost my place here. I got ahead of myself. To approve a gambling permit application, Detroit Lakes Youth Hockey. Discussion? Roll call vote. Zeman.
Aye.
Spry.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Mark Erickson.
Aye.
Wenner.
Aye.
Dahlman.
Aye.
Suki.
Aye.
Bulky.
Aye.
Bly.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Nothing else on the agenda.
Okay. Madeline, will you take the items under the Public Utilities Commission?
Yes, item A is request approval of a pictometry aerial image contract. Public Utilities Commission reviewed that today. This is the second time we'll be renewing for this, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the pictometry aerial image contract. Discussion?
Can I just ask for a dumbed-down explanation of what that is?
I was going to do that, but I'm glad you did it instead.
I guess I'm not
going to
familiar.
call on Vernell to explain what that is for those of you that don't know.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, there's no acronyms in this. I don't understand why there's a question. Mayor and Council. What that is that's the aerial imagery we use for our geographical information systems and our mapping within the city. It's a very high resolution, almost three-dimensional aerial photography. We started this in 2013. It's what's available on our website. Utility staff uses it. City engineer Pratt uses it a lot. It gives us some very good high resolution to take a look at designing projects and what goes on within the city. So it's a very neat product, and we've utilized it a lot in the last 7 years.
All right, thank you, Vernell. So, further discussion? We haven't voted yet, right? No. I'll do a roll call again. Suki?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Mark Erickson?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Wenner?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item B, request approval of the construction contract for the 115 kV transmission line. Once again, we came in way under bids, or way under what the estimate was. And Public Utilities Commission reviewed those bids today and moves the approval of that construction contract. If you want more information, I'm sure Vernell would be happy to give it to you.
Okay?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the construction contract for the 115, is it kilovolts? Yes, sir. Transmission line. Discussion?
How much did we save?
Does Vernell want to answer that, or can?
Yeah.
The bids range from about 1.5 million to 5+ thousand, 100,000.
Engineer's estimate was right at 900 grand.
Yep.
Okay,
Very good savings.
further discussion. Josephson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Mark Erickson?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Wenner?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
Suki?
Aye.
The motion carries.
Item C is request approval of the purchase of a transformer for that substation project. Once again, Public Utilities Commission reviewed those quotes this morning and moves to approve the purchase that was the low bid, well, low combined bid.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the purchase of a transformer for substation project. Discussion? Zeman?
Aye.
Mark Erickson?
Aye.
Wenner?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
Suki?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Motion carries. Kelsey, do you want to take item 11A, consideration to a resolution on the SWPPP update?
Yes, Mayor and Council, in your packet was the resolution and the grant agreement for updating the airport stormwater protection plan. The grant covers 70% of the cost, 30% is picked up by the airport, so the local portion of that's about $6,600. So again, basically looking for council approval of the resolution.
Okay.
Okay, the consideration of the resolution authorizing the execution of MnDOT grant agreement for SWPPP update. Committee recommends, and I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the resolution authorizing the execution of the MnDOT grant agreement. Discussion? Wenner?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Suki? Bly?
Aye.
Bulky?
Aye.
Motion carries. And we pulled the item 11B off of the consent agenda.
Okay, Mayor, the reason we pulled that off is because in addition to all the plumbing licenses we have there, we had 3 plumbing licenses requests came in late, and we're going to add Esser Plumbing, Northern Pine Plumbing, and Wilcox Plumbing to that list. And committee recommends, and I say move that we approve these licenses.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the various plumbing, rental, massage therapist, massage business licenses. Discussion? Bulky?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
Suki?
Aye.
Josephson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Dahlman?
Aye.
Wenner?
Aye.
The motion carries. Item 12A is regarding the council liaison for the library board. Kelsey?
Yeah, I think the discussion is Bruce was on the library board and representing the city council, so I guess we got to talk about either, I don't know if Bruce wants to still stay on the library board or if we want to designate someone else to be the liaison and appointed to the library board from the city council.
So if Bruce stayed on, he wouldn't really be a liaison to the council because he's not on the council.
Yeah, he'd just be staying on as a library board member.
Well, why don't we do this? Let me talk to Bruce and I'll bring it back next month, okay?
Yep.
We also need to re-adopt our resolution extending the declaration of emergency, and I didn't look at the resolution, but does it go until the next council meeting?
Correct.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to do that.
So move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve a resolution extending the declaration of emergency. Discussion?
I'm going to be voting no again on this one. Surprised nobody. I feel if kids are back in school face to face, there's no reason that we shouldn't be as well.
Further discussion? I like your style. Suki?
Well, I don't quite agree with Matt on that one, but I'm going to vote yes, we're going to extend it.
Okay, Josephson?
Aye.
Spry?
Aye.
Zeman?
Aye.
Bly?
Aye.
Bulky?
No.
Marks Erickson?
Aye.
Dahlman?
No.
Wenner?
Aye.
I know you've all been waiting for the State of the City address, but I'm going to hold off a minute till I finish the rest of the agenda. We need to appoint 2 people to the Planning Commission because Bob Luiso wants to resign and do some traveling, and Bruce Imholt, now that he's off the council, would also like to resign. And so I'd like to recommend the names of Kyle Fody and Sean Carlson to be appointed to the Planning Commission. Also, we can do all these at once. I'd like to reappoint Karen Squires to the Park Board, Kim Betcher to the Park Board, Bruce Imholt to the Park Board to replace Marcus Locker, reappoint Tony Schmitz and Doug Anselman to the Tourist Bureau, and I would entertain a motion to do all those appointments.
I so move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the aforementioned individuals. I'll do a roll call vote. Zeman.
Aye.
Marks Erickson.
Aye.
Winter.
Aye.
Dahlman.
Aye.
Josephson.
Aye.
Spry.
Aye.
Bulkey.
Aye.
Suki.
Aye.
Bly.
Aye.
I will talk to Jeff Perkins and Gio Tucker prior to next month's meeting regarding the Public Utilities Commission. The Becker County Assessor has notified the city that the Board of Review for 2021 will occur at the courthouse on April 27th at 9:30. And we need to appoint a Board of Equalization. We do have some individuals that have the certifications that are needed, and those would be myself, Alderman Joseph, and Alderman Marks Erickson. Dan and Jamie, are you guys okay to continue on that this year?
Yes.
Jamie? Jamie?
Yes.
Okay, and I would too. Ron, are you,
Yes.
you've been serving on that. You need
I'm
to
gonna-
re-up your,
I'm gonna re-up with Lori too on this.
so,
Yeah.
so without objection, it'll be Ron, myself, Jamie, and Dan, okay? Just want to mention 2 retirements that occurred just to start out 2021. Terry Stiegel, street supervisor, worked for the city for 36 years, and Don Getz, lineman, who worked for the public utilities for 39 years. The joint governance meeting dates are listed, as well as the council meeting dates. Anything else from the city staff this evening? Anything from any of the council members? I'll read really fast, okay? So to the city council, city staff, and the citizens of Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, it's an honor to deliver this evening the annual State of the City address for the year 2020. This is my 13th State of the City address, and while each one has been special, this one unfortunately comes during a devastating global pandemic, during a time that we've seen social and civil unrest, and on the heels of a highly charged election season. I think we can all agree that 2020 was a trying and stressful time for all. Administratively, 2020 was a busy and challenging year in terms of managing the city's business while dealing with issues related to the pandemic. I want to take this opportunity to thank our staff for meeting those challenges while continuing to provide excellent service to the community. As difficult as 2020 was, fortunately, there were some positive things that happened in the city of Detroit Lakes. There were significant city projects, as well as continued development, expansion, and growth in our private sector and in new housing. And we continue to be financially strong and stable. Tonight, I'd like to briefly review and highlight some of those positives from this past year and some of the plans for 2021 and beyond. Some notable city civic projects from 2020. The largest phase of the new airport runway taxiway project at the Detroit Lakes Becker County Airport took place this past year with the reconstruction of the main runway, the filling in of the wastewater ponds, and the installation of the approach lighting system. Phase 4 is now underway, primarily with the installation of the perimeter fence for the entire airport property. The airport runway taxiway project expands the runway to 5,200 feet, including a parallel taxiway, allowing larger aircraft to utilize the facility and enhancing opportunities for our city and regional businesses. Construction was substantially completed in 2020 for our new state-of-the-art wastewater treatment facility, the largest single municipal project ever funded in the city of Detroit Lakes. Detroit Lakes has been placed under some of the most stringent wastewater discharge standards in Minnesota, and the quality of water produced from the facility is meeting or exceeding expectations and those standards. Another important project that began this past year is our new police department facility, and we did just hear from the chief regarding that, so I'll kind of skip through some of this. As Heidi mentioned, we're way ahead on our sales tax collections, and it looks like it could potentially be paid off in 2023 in February, the fall of 2023, and it could potentially save the taxpayers about $137,000 in interest. Detroit Lakes had another solid year in 2020, both in terms of private development and in housing development. Building permits, while lower than the previous 2 years, still came in at about $28 million this past year and included 35 new single-family housing units, which equaled the amount built in 2019. Remarkably, 286 new homes have been constructed in Detroit Lakes in the past 7 years, and I think that's a good reflection of our steady and solid growth in the city. 2 large private sector projects were completed in 2020. Midtown Development, a $6 million project with 11,000 square feet of retail space and 30 housing units, was completed and opened. Pelican Landing, a $12 million 76-unit assisted living facility, was also completed and opened in 2020. Financially, Detroit Lakes continues to remain fiscally sound and has done so in spite of the drastic reductions in local government aid over the past 20-plus years and in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our city's credit rating remains excellent. Standard & Poor's affirmed the city's credit rating at AA stable, recognizing the city's strong financial management, solid budgetary performance, and our budgetary flexibility and liquidity. This past year, the city's auditing firm issued an unqualified audit opinion for 2019. Taking advantage of favorable interest rates and our excellent credit rating, the city refinanced a large bond issue in 2020, saving the taxpayers over $420,000 in interest income. In December, the City Council approved and adopted a levy increase of 6.03% for 2021. However, because the city's tax capacity is increasing and 6 tax increment financing districts are coming fully back onto the tax rolls, our finance department projects no significant impact to the city's tax rate. Assuming no valuation increase to a city property, this would equate to only a $7 annual increase on a $170,000 residential homestead property, or $42 in an annual increase on a city property tax for a $500,000 commercial property for the 2021 tax year. We continue to enjoy one of the lowest tax rates in the region, including cities like Fergus Falls, East Grand Forks, Bemidji, Thief River Falls, and others. And statewide, our city tax rate is significantly lower than the average city rate for all greater Minnesota cities with populations between 5 and 10,000. Providing property tax relief, flexibility in funding growth, and providing enhancements to our quality of life. We also enjoy prosperous enterprise revenues. Heidi touched on those earlier in the council meeting. Again, our liquor store had record sales that are going to surpass $8.8 million in 2020, making us the 8th highest grossing municipal store in Minnesota. We make an annual transfer from the liquor fund to the general fund. I didn't have that number, but I know it's in excess of $500,000. Our finance department also projects that final receipts from the city food and beverage tax will be looking like about $367,000 for 2020, or maybe that was a little different tonight. Regardless, it's not a direct transfer, but the tax provides an ongoing resource for stewardship to our area lakes, for parking and trail improvements, and continued redevelopment of our business corridor sector. Also transferred to the general fund from the city electric utility as a payment in lieu of taxes will be $623,000 in 2021. So to put these enterprise funds into perspective, if they did not exist in the city this past year, we would have had to increase property taxes by well over 25% and to maintain and fund the status quo. The city's departments, the public utility, the various advisory boards and commissions, and the city council committees continue to work with the city council this past year to enhance the public good and the quality of life here in Detroit Lakes. So I would urge all the city council members and interested citizens to review the various year-end reports in more detail from our city departments, and you can obtain copies from Glory, or maybe they're on the website already. If not, you can contact City Hall and get those reports. But I want to touch on just a few of the highlights from our various departments this past year. The Planning Commission, the Development Authority, and the Community Development Committee had a busy 2020, dealing with numerous activities. The Planning Commission and the CDC reviewed numerous rezoning requests, conditional use permits, variances, subdivisions, non-conforming use permits, and 2 annexations, increasing the corporate limits of the city by an additional 41 acres. The Detroit Lakes Development Authority also conducted numerous activities in 2020 and continues to assist Detroit Lakes in making strong gains in economic development and housing growth. The Development Authority and the City Council also continue to emphasize housing as a key element to the growth and economic expansion of the city. Our city's entirely volunteer fire department continues to provide professional fire protection services to the city of Detroit Lakes and to the surrounding townships of Detroit, Lakeview, and Erie. Our department currently stands at 25 firefighters and looks to establish a full roster of 30 firefighters this coming year. In 2020, the fire department responded to 216 calls for service and also engaged in numerous hours of training and other community activities. The city police department, with 17 sworn officers, also saw another busy year in 2020, responding to 12,207 calls for service, which is down slightly from the previous year, but still a significant number in relation to the number of officers. The department continues to upgrade equipment and engage in extensive training and other community activities. 2021 promises to be an extremely busy year for the department as they move into their new facility beginning this spring. The Public Works Department, with 20 full-time and 16 part-time employees, kept the city and the numerous facilities it oversees looking great this past year. One area in which we can all be proud is our extensive park system and growing internal trail system. The new South Shore Park Shelter, parking lot, and trails were completed this past year, with plans for playground and courts to be constructed in 2021. A substantial portion of the Heartland Trail between Detroit Lakes and Frazee was constructed in 2020, with more work scheduled for this summer. Larry's Pathway, a segment of the city's internal trail system, was completed and dedicated this summer, honoring former Mayor Larry Buboltz for his many years of leadership and service to the city and his work in developing and expanding our multi-use trails. The Detroit Mountain Recreation Area Legacy Grant project was completed in 2020 and includes new asphalt parking improvements, new mountain bike trails, and a natural playground. Additional public work activities in 2020 included new irrigation at the soccer complex, an 18-hole disc golf course at Long Lake Park, improvements to the dog park, and to the skateboard park. In terms of environmental stewardship, this past year, our Public Works Department completed over 7,000 miles of street sweeping, removing 4,081 yards of debris and pollutants from entering our stormwater system. The City Council continues emphasis on implementation of additional portions of the Green Step City program, which was adopted by the city in 2019. The city also received the Bronze Bike Friendly Community designation in 2020, which reflects the city's commitment to improve quality of life and health, stronger community connections, a proactive stance toward climate change concerns, increased tourism, property values and economic development, and added safety. Several large road construction projects were completed or substantially completed last year. These include the entire length of West Avenue, Willow Street from Washington Avenue to Jackson Avenue, Washington Avenue from Willow Street to south of North Shore Drive, including 2 roundabout intersections, and Randolph Road from Chris Street to County 54. Significant improvements were made to the Chris Street intersection, and signal lights were added to the intersection of County 54, East Shore Drive, and Highway 10 intersection. The Detroit Lakes Public Utility was busy also in the electric utility and in the wastewater department with numerous projects, the most significant of which is the new wastewater treatment facility. And we're basically done there except for some testing, right, Purnell? I do want to mention that the utility was recognized for several operational and management awards this past year. In April, the utility received the American Public Power Safety Award for having 0 lost time accidents in 2019. They received the Platinum designation from the Reliable Public Power Provider Program, which recognizes excellent service, and the APPA Excellence and Reliability Award, reflecting reliability index that's in the top 1/4 of all utilities in the United States. Finally, congratulations to General Manager Vernell Roberts on his election to Chairman of the Board of Missouri River Energy Services. Administratively, our city staff spent many additional hours dealing with COVID-19 related issues with distribution of the CARES Act funding received by the city, proving to be an enormous undertaking. Some other notable administration activities this past year include negotiation and ratification of 3-year contracts with all 4 of our city bargaining unions, ongoing discussions with the county and surrounding townships regarding the city extraterritorial subdivision authority, establishment of a massage therapist ordinance, and amendments to the city's personnel policy, just to name a few. 2020 also saw several key personnel changes. Brad Green, Public Works Director, Pam Slifka, Finance Officer, and Fire Chief Scott Flynn all retired this past year. The City Council welcomed Sean King as the new Public Works Director, Heidi Thunberg as the new Finance Officer, and Ryan Swanson as the new Fire Chief. In addition, Jay Sherman resigned his alderman position this past year, and Bruce Imholt retired at the end of his 5th full term in December as alderman at large. And tonight we welcome our newest City Council members, Aaron Dahlman, Wendy Spry, to their first regular City Council meeting. So how was it? Not bad?
Good stuff.
Or is it getting a little long, you think? So, here's the good news. As I conclude this evening, here are some of the things we can look forward to in 2021 and beyond. The City Council has been budgeting for several years to construct a very much needed new Public Works facility to be located on North Tower Road, and we're going to have to make some decisions on moving forward with that project. The City Council approved a $450,000 commitment to the new proposed Becker County Museum. They received a $1.85 million state bond funding in 2020, and hopefully construction should begin in 2021. Actually, there is some construction already going on with the connection of the new stairway. So additional agreements are going to be needed as we move forward between the city, the county, the community center, and the museum as we progress forward. The City Council commissioned BHH Architects to develop some design concepts and cost estimates for the Washington Ballpark, and this information should be available for council review early this year. The city's also engaged in discussions with the Food Pantry Board of Directors and Becker County regarding a new food pantry facility, and more information will be presented to the council in the coming months. As the city engineer indicated earlier at the meeting, 2 large road construction projects are planned for this summer. Hopefully the Westlake Drive from Legion Road to County 6, and also the Frazee Homes and Willow Street, West Willow project. Plans are underway and ongoing for festivities this summer in conjunction with the city's 150th anniversary. And maybe at some point, Kelsey, we can get an update at a future meeting on that. And finally, we will continue to have to deal with the pandemic issues, and I'm sure we all look forward to large-scale vaccinations and increased immunity and a return to a better world. So in conclusion, 2020 was an unprecedented but still a productive year. I want to thank our citizens, businesses, and industries for persevering through the difficult year. Thank you to our advisory boards and commissions who help the City Council make vital decisions for the city's future. To all city employees, thank you for meeting the challenges of 2020 and continuing to provide excellent service. You are the professionals that keep our city functioning efficiently and who not only serve our citizens, but equally important, they make our city appealing to our visitors. Lastly, to all the City Council and to Vice Mayor Zeman, thank you from all the citizens of Detroit Lakes for your service, leadership, and accomplishments in 2020. It's an honor to work with all of you, and I look forward to abatement and elimination of the COVID-19 virus and for a better year ahead as we continue to make Detroit Lakes a better place to live, to work, and to visit. So thank you. that, the business of this council has come to a conclusion. The meeting's adjourned.